I want you to imagine that you're in a courtroom, okay, and you're standing before a judge and a jury, and they need to understand why is your practice the way that it is. And you need to explain it logically and factually and convincingly, and you need to plead your case. Why are things the way that you are? Now, I'm going to give you some examples here. Again, these are the common problems that I hear chiropractors. If you're struggling with new patient flow, it might be something like this. Your Honour, the reason I don't have enough new patients is because marketing is hard. I've tried some things, but they don't work. Social media is totally overwhelming. I don't know where to start. Plus, people aren't looking for chiropractic care the way they used to. It's tough out there to market, okay? That might be the way that you plead your case. What else would you add in there? Let me give you another example, okay? If you struggle with tension, having people come back again and again and really get the magnificence of chiropractic, you might say this: the jury, you need to understand, patients just don't seem to value long-term care. Good morning. Good afternoon and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. Let me start with a question, two parts to this question. Is there any area in your practice right now that's not working? Something that's not where you would like it to be? That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is this, is why is that? Is it the economy, the competition, your location? Is it staff? CAs, associates, okay. Is it that you're struggling to attract new patients? Maybe people aren't committing to care the way that you'd like. Maybe you're working harder than ever, but practice just doesn't seem to be growing and you don't have the freedom that you'd expect. Whatever it is, I want you to pause for a moment. I want you to really think about it. Like if you had to explain to a judge and a jury exactly why your practice isn't working and isn't the way you want it to be, what would you say? What are the reasons? And what's the proof that you would give them? What are the facts that you would be able to share? Because today, we're going to dig into exactly that. We're going to take a hard look at really what's going on. And hopefully, by the end of this episode, you'll have a whole new perspective and a game plan to start things changing, to move towards where you actually want to be. So if you've ever felt stuck in practice, this episode might just be the breakthrough that you need. So let's dive in. Now, before we can fix anything, we first need to identify the problem. Think of your practice a bit like a patient. We don't adjust our patients before assessing them first, right? Let's assess where your practice needs attention. I want you to take a moment. I'm going to spend some time now going through kind of 9 different categories. Now, these categories are useful. Again, if we're not enjoying practice, if we're not having the impact, the income and the enjoyment, the fun that we ought to be having, we've first of all got to identify where it is. So I'm going to kind of painstakingly work through these 9 different areas. And I want you to listen out for where is the priority for you? Where's the hemorrhaging artery, so to speak? Or if you could wave a magic wand across, where would you want to begin? It's possible that there are multiple areas that you'd want to change. But where would you start with? Okay, so the first one is in around new patient flow issues. Maybe you're not getting enough new patients. Maybe your marketing isn't working, or maybe you're not doing any marketing. Maybe you're relying too much on word of mouth and you don't have a system for generating new patients. Maybe people are inquiring but not following through. These are all new patient issues. Number 2, retention and patient commitment, okay? Maybe patients are dropping out before they complete their care plans. Maybe you struggle to communicate the value of care. Maybe people only come in when they're in pain and then they disappear. Perhaps your PVA isn't what it ought to be. They're all signs of retention and patient commitment problems. Number 3, conversion issues. So people come in for the initial consultation, but they don't get started, okay? Maybe you feel awkward selling care plans. Patients say they'll think about it, but they very rarely return. And you don't have a clear report of findings that makes sense to patients. These are conversion issues. Other challenges in financial struggles. This is number 4. You're not making the money, the income that you want. You feel uncomfortable discussing money and pricing. You discount too much. You feel pressure to lower your fees. And you don't have a clear pricing structure and payment plans in place. They're all financial issues. Number 5, maybe it's overwork or burnout. So you're seeing a decent number of people. Maybe you're earning good money as well, but you feel exhausted. You're there too many hours. There's no work-life balance. You're not taking enough holidays because you're afraid your practice is going to suffer. And you feel like you're running on a treadmill a little bit. That's overwork and burnout. Maybe for some of you, the issue is around team and staff. That's been our challenges in practice over the last 18 months. Amazing associates. Amy and Tanya are both gorgeous human beings, but we've had some challenges with front desk staff. So, is the struggle to manage your team effectively, not having the right staff in place? That was our issue there too. Is there tension or misalignment? Do you feel like you need to do everything yourself? There are all problems with team and staff. That's number 6. Number 7 is the issue in around marketing and branding confusion. Is it that you don't know how to market your practice effectively? Are you posting on social media but nothing's happening? Maybe you're not sure what makes your practice unique. That's branding. Maybe you feel uncomfortable putting yourself out there. Number 8, is it a lack of systems or efficiency? Do you feel like you're always putting out fires instead of running a well-oiled practice? Is it you don't have clear systems in place for patient onboarding, follow-ups, reactivations, those sorts of things? Maybe your admin and scheduling processes are messy or inconsistent, or are you wasting too much time on non-essential tasks? The final category here is confidence and mindset blocks. Do you doubt yourself and are you second-guessing your recommendations? Is there a confidence and certainty issue that you have? Do you feel like an imposter compared to other chiropractors? Are you hesitant to market yourself and be seen as an authority? And do you feel stuck in your old patterns? So those 9 categories there are where most practice problems come from. Let me briefly list those again. We'll belt our way through those. Is it new patient flow, retention and commitment? Is it conversion issues, financial struggles, overwork and burnout, team and staff, marketing and branding, lack of systems efficiency, confidence and mindset as well? So if you were to take a second, what is it that stands out for you? What's the one issue that if you were to solve it, it would move you towards the practice that you want? Now, often the cool thing is if you choose the right one here, it can bleed over and make a difference to lots of the others. So there are probably multiple areas there that you'd like to improve, but if one could be solved with a magic wand, what would it be? Okay, so just start with one. Now that you've identified what's not working, we need to go a little bit deeper. The next question we need to understand is why? Why is it not working? Okay, so here's how we're going to go about that. I want you to imagine that you're in a courtroom, okay, and you're standing before a judge and a jury, and they need to understand why is your practice the way that it is. And you need to explain it logically and factually and convincingly, and you need to plead your case. Why are things the way that you are? Now, I'm going to give you some examples here. Play along with me as we go through this too. So let's just say that, again, these are the common problems that I hear chiropractors. If you're struggling with new patient flow, it might be something like this. Your Honor, the reason I don't have enough new patients is because marketing is hard. I've tried some things, but they don't work. Social media is totally overwhelming. I don't know where to start. Plus, people aren't looking for chiropractic care the way they used to. It's tough out there to market. Okay, that might be the way that you plead your case. What else would you add in there? Let me give you another example, okay? If you struggle with tension, having people come back again and again and really get the magnificence of chiropractic, you might say this: the jury, you need to understand, patients just don't seem to value long-term care. They come in when they're in the pain, and once they feel better, they leave, okay? I explain the importance of ongoing care, but they don't listen. It's just the way that people are. Okay, does that sound familiar? I hear that sort of thing from chiropractors all the time. Maybe if you're struggling with conversions, even getting people to start, it might be something like this. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm not a salesperson, okay? I don't like pressuring people, and if they don't care about to want it, or if they don't want it there, I'm not going to force them. And besides, people these days just don't want to commit to anything long-term. Okay, does that sound familiar? That might be a way that you want to kind of sell it to the jury. If you're struggling financially, maybe it's this: I can't charge more because people cannot afford it. Inflation is at a high rise and there's more people out of work. The economy is tough and no one wants to pay for chiropractic care. And if I raise my fees, I'll lose even more patients. Okay, so again, final example here too. If you're feeling burnt out, Your Honor, the reality is that running practice is exhausting. I work as hard as I possibly can, but I can never seem to break through. And on top of this, I'm trying to maintain a family and some form of personal life as well. And if I slow down, take time off, my practice will suffer. I have no choice but to just keep on grinding. So these are the reasons why, once we realize the challenge and we start to work out the reasons why, these can be really illuminating as well. Now, once we've made our case to the courtroom, what I want you to do here is I want you to step back and analyze. I want you to put your investigator hat on now, and I want you to ask some really critical questions here. Is what you've said or what you would say to the jury and the judge, is it a fact or is it just a story? Now, before you jump in and say, Angus, it's a fact, I want you to just hold on a moment, okay? The reality is most of what holds us back in practice isn't external circumstances. It isn't facts. It's the stories we tell ourselves about the way things are or why things are the way they are. Now, this means what we have to do is we have to get good at differentiating facts from stories. And this is quite a skill. It's very easy for us to do it to other people. You're probably a master at doing this with your spouse and your kids. But finding our own stories is really difficult because we live them, okay? And there's so many different ways that our brain reinforces them. We'll talk about that in a moment, but they do seem like facts, okay? But facts are objective, they're measurable, they're universally true. So the idea of universally true, if people don't want to pay for chiropractic care, then that should mean nowhere they want to pay. Like in your town, is every chiropractor failing? Is everyone finding it difficult to market? That would be the idea that's universally true. These are things that can be proven in a court of law there. Stories, on the other hand, are interpretations of facts. And they're shaped by our past experiences, our fears, and they're shaped by assumptions. Okay, they're not shaped by facts. Now, many of the things that you probably said in your courtroom argument, they might feel like facts, but the truth is they're probably not. We need to put them to the test. So if you were to go back and review what you would say, we can look for the story in there, we look for the fact, and then I'm going to give you an example of how we might want to reframe that, okay? So again, let's use those same examples I did beforehand, but put yourself in there. You should be looking for your story. So maybe your story is, I'm not getting enough new patients because marketing doesn't work, right? That's the story that we wanted to share as a fact. But the fact is, I had 3 new patients last month. Now, it might be that that's not enough, but that's the fact. The story you're saying from that is that marketing doesn't work. Those two conclusions, that you cannot conclude that. The fact I had 3 new patients last month and marketing doesn't work. We could reframe that to say this. Maybe the type of marketing that you're doing isn't working, but marketing itself works. I just need to find a better strategy. Now, when we start to reframe from our story into this new one from here, you might notice a change in motivation. You might notice some enthusiasm start to click back, and you might notice that all of a sudden different options become available to you. But let me give you another example here. Patients don't value long-term care, so they drop out. That's a story I hear a lot nowadays. Now, the fact is, here's the fact, some patients stop care earlier than we'd like. Some do. But the story we're telling ourselves is that no one values long-term care. Now, we want to reframe this to, some patients might not fully understand the value of long-term care, but I'm going to do my best to, upskill myself and educate them. Or what can I do to do this, okay? Again, notice our motivation change. Let's do one more. People don't want to commit to care, so I don't push them, okay? Now, the fact is, some people hesitate to commit, and where the story we're telling ourselves is it's wrong to guide people into committing to care. The reframe here is people are committing to things all the time when and only when they understand the value. So maybe I need to improve how I communicate the value as well, okay? Here's the thing. Most of the stories that we're telling ourselves do a really good job of disguising themselves as fact. They follow predictable patterns. Now, one of the biggest clues if we're looking for a story is to look at the language. Listen for how you talk about challenges, both inside your head, the inner dialogue, as well as the outer dialogue as well. Stories almost always contain exaggerated words that take something that's true for a small group of people and then you generalize it or apply it to everybody. So I want you to look out for red flag words. Okay, so here's some examples as well. Always. Again, patients always drop out after pain relief. If you've found yourself saying that, never. People never commit to long-term care. Everyone is looking for cheap chiropractic care. Okay, no one is willing to pay for care anymore, or no one is willing to bring their families in. Or we're saying phrases like, it's just the way things are. Chiropractors don't get as much respect as medical doctors. It's just the way things are. It's like it's never going to change and it's possible and that's the way it is everywhere. Or maybe it's just the way I am. I'm just not good at marketing. I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at communication. It's just the way I am. Or that's the way they are. Patients just don't listen. That's the way they are. These are all red flag words or phrases. Always, never, everyone, no one. Okay, it's just the way things are. It's how I am. It's how they are. You want to find yourself saying these words. Okay, so again, if you were to go back, take a second now. What is your challenge in practice? What is the story that you would put forwards? Okay, if you were to say it out loud, how many of those red flags words are there? Patients never want to pay for care. So never, never, they always. These are things that we want to look for, okay? Now, our stories, once we uncover these, we want to take a step back because sometimes we don't understand the enormity of our stories, but the stories help to shape our reality because here's the truth. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world through the lens of our beliefs and our stories. So sometimes in this, I'm going to use those words interchangeably, beliefs and stories, So we see the world through that. So your perception of your practice, of your patients, and even of yourself is not reality. It's a filtered version that your brain has created. And this can be almost overwhelming to recognize that what you thought was reality might not be the case. Now, let me explain a little bit this to you from even a neurological point of view. Our brain is exposed to literally millions of bits of information every second. Everything you see, hear, smell, touch, all the stuff, information that's coming from inside us and outside us. And it's impossible for our brain to be able to process all of that. So your brain has to filter it down. Now, it filters it down based on a few different things by deleting, distorting, and generalizing information. Now, this deleting and distorting and generalizing, it does this based on our beliefs and our stories. And it does this it's efficient, okay? Without this, it would be impossible for us to get through the day. So if you believe people don't value chiropractic care, your brain is going to actively look for evidence that confirms this belief, okay? It's going to delete and distort and generalize to show you that this is true. Now, there's several parts of our brain that does it. The reticular activating formation, many of you will have a better understanding of that than me, but that plays a critical role in this too. But let's look at these a little more. Let's talk about deleting. This is ignoring information that doesn't fit the story, okay? So an example might be, if you believe patients only come in when they're in pain, you'll notice every patient when they drop out, okay? But you'll completely ignore those that can continue to come and see you on a weekly basis. Distorting. This is twisting information to match the story. We do this too. It's wild, okay? So a patient says, look, I really need to think about this. And if your story is people never commit to care, you're going to interpret that as rejecting chiropractic. You're probably going to be a bit gruff. Your body language will show that too, and maybe they'll head that direction. But in reality, they just need some more time or clarity or reassurance. They needed you to help them problem solve in that moment. But because you had a distorting kind of framework, you saw it as that and you withdrew and you didn't help them solve the problem. Again, the third one here is we generalize. So this takes one experience and it applies it across everyone or into a larger group as well. So maybe a few patients complain about price and all of a sudden you believe no one is willing to pay for care. Maybe a patient ghosted after the first visit, so all of a sudden we believe people don't want to follow through. The problem is when we generalize, when we distort, when we delete, we get ourselves stuck in a loop, and we get ourselves stuck in a loop where we're constantly providing evidence for our own limiting beliefs. Now, this is called a confirmation bias, which I'm sure most of you are aware of as well. So once your brain accepts the story as truth, you're going to be looking for proof, okay? You'll notice only the things that reinforce it, and you'll ignore and explain away everything that contradicts it as well, okay? So patients don't follow recommendations. You'll look for all the evidence of that. You'll ignore the patients that do follow your recommendations. So the key takeaway I want you to get from this is that your stories shape your world, okay? And by shaping your world, our stories also shape our actions, because then we take actions that further reinforce into it, and it ends up so ingrained in us that we think that it is a fact, okay? So our stories don't only shape what we see, okay, but they shape what we do. If you believe that patients don't commit to care, you'll hesitate to recommend confidently to me. If you believe that people won't pay, then you're going to struggle to discuss pricing and money. If you believe that marketing doesn't work, then you're going to put in a half-hearted effort or no effort at all as well. So our actions always follow our beliefs. They can't do anything else, not long-term anyway, okay? Our actions always follow our beliefs. So now that we understand just how powerful our stories are, the next question is, what do we do about it? How do we rewrite a story? Because rewriting a story is incredibly important, but it's tricky as well. It takes time to get through this, okay? So now we know our stories aren't always facts, okay? We need to write new ones. What is the story that we actually want to believe, all right? What is the story that will move us forwards? Now, step one of this is identify the old story you want to change. Let's start by choosing one story that's been holding you back. Look for the patterns that we uncovered earlier. What's the biggest problem? What is it? Patients never commit to care. Marketing doesn't work. I'm not good at talking about money. I'm not good at training staff as well. Then step two, what we want to do is we want to challenge the story, okay? We have to, again, let's go back to being that in the courtroom there, where we're going to argue against it in some case there too. We can break this story apart. Now, there's some questions that can help you to do this. Ones I like to ask is this 100% true? Will this hold up in a court of law? Is this, if I'm saying that, people can't afford care, I'm like, no, I've got plenty of evidence for the opposite of that, okay? There are other practices in my town and my country that are really thriving. The second thing we can look for, as I mentioned there too, are there examples that contradict it? Are there some patients that are following their care plans? Then the third part of this too, if we're wanting to challenge the story, is ask yourself, where did I learn this? How did I come up with this idea that marketing is sleazy or marketing is difficult or, I'm not worthy to be putting myself out? Is it based on personal experience, fear, or something someone else told you? Remember, your brain has been deleting, distorting, and generalizing probably for decades, most of your life there too, and you might be ignoring the evidence that actually proves your story wrong. So we have to look into it, okay? Then step number 3, what we want to do is we want to write a new empowering story, okay? We want to write one that supports growth. Now, we're not talking about, this is not fake it till you make it here. This is not fake positivity. We're talking about a version of your story that is equally, if not more true than the old one. You might be saying, hey, listen, patients don't want long-term care. I've got evidence all around the world of patients that are doing this. It's very true, okay? This is not just fake it till you make it. Look for evidence. Find it, okay? Write it out in a new way. So an old one might be patients never commit to care. Our new story is going to be many patients will commit when they understand the value, and I'm going to improve how I communicate this. The old story might be marketing doesn't work for me. The new story is, hey, marketing is a skill and I can learn what works for my practice. These are new stories as well. Step number 4 is we need to reinforce the new story daily. Repetition, okay? Always repetition. I mean, you've reinforced the old story again and again and again. The new one's going to take some repetition as well. So write it down, read it out loud each and every day, and read it multiple times. Repetition is what rewires your brain. You need to start to catch yourself when you're using your old story. Look for words like always and never and everyone. Catch yourself in that moment and remind yourself, this is an old story. I'm not holding on to this any longer. Look for evidence that supports your new story. Every time a patient commits, every time a little bit of marketing works, every time you learn something new, every time you have, a slight step in the direction of victory, okay, look for that and celebrate it, okay? The 4th and final one inside of here too is surround yourself with people who support your new story. It's really hard to hold on to a new story if your old one is chiropractic is hard and you're hanging out with a bunch of chiropractors that are constantly bitching and whinging about this. You might need to find some new friends. Now, I'm not saying you get rid of your old ones, but maybe you need to question how much time you're hanging around them. If everyone around you is struggling and complaining about struggling with patients, then that story is going to stick. The stories are very sticky as well, okay? You're retraining your brain to look for a different reality, one that helps you grow instead of holding you back as well. So what's your new story going to be? Okay, we need to make a choice now, okay? Are you going to keep living by the old story that's been limiting your growth, or are you going to start to narrate a new one, okay? Now, the truth is your future practice isn't determined by the economy, your location, your competition. It's not even determined by the people around you. It's determined by the stories that you choose to tell yourself. So we need to choose wisely. Okay, now, as powerful as your new story is, and it's powerful because it shifts the way that you see the world, your practice and yourself, the key here, nothing changes if nothing changes. And a new story without action is a wish, okay? And wishes don't grow practice. I wish they did. I have no evidence in my life for it, and I have no evidence of now the hundreds of clients that I've worked for. Wishes don't work, okay? So the story, this is not just The Secret where we're creating a new story and we're imagining it. We're creating a new story and then we're backing it up with action. So we need to align our actions with our new story. Now, again, if we just try new actions without narrating a new story, you will default back to it. We cannot have actions that are in contradiction to our story because our stories are so powerful. So you've probably tried before, you've learnt the scripts, you've learnt the strategies, and if you've followed through the strategies without changing the story in the background there too, that's why we bounce back to it. That's why things like, weight loss and fitness can be so damn difficult if we don't change the story of the way that we see ourselves, okay? The reason for most of us that aren't smokers find it really easy to not smoke is we have really empowering stories around it. So my story around smoking is it's horrible, it's dirty, it smells, it's going to kill me. With those stories, with those beliefs in mind, it's effortless for me not to smoke, okay? Now, if I just was a smoker and I didn't change my story, but I then just started getting nicotine patches and stuff like that, if I don't change my story, my actions are going to drive me back to it, okay? So step number 1. Identify actions that align with your new story. Go back to your new story. Ask yourself this. If I truly believe this, how would I act differently? What actions would reinforce my belief? So again, let's go back to an example. My new story is patients will commit when they understand the value, and I can improve how I communicate this. So my aligned action is practice is simple. I'm going to clearly explain. I'm going to work on my communication. I'm going to work on my communication of value, okay? This is what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to study. I'm going to get some coaching. I'm going to do these sorts of things, but I'm going to find a brand new way to communicate value, okay? So by practicing a simple, clear explanation, okay? That would be the way we do it, okay? If the new story is marketing as a skill and I can learn what works for me, your aligned action could be something like this. You're going to choose one marketing strategy and you can commit to it for 90 days. If your new story is discussing value and pricing as a part of serving your patients, Then your aligned action could be all about role-playing pricing conversations with a team member. It could be about stopping discounts, to push away the fear, those sorts of things there too, okay? Again, one final one. If your new story is with the right systems, my practice can thrive when I step away. The aligned action is this. I'm going to start to document key procedures. I'm going to start delegating small tasks. I'm going to schedule one day off as a test, okay? Now, as we're starting to implement these new actions, it's important that we start small, build momentum. Big changes don't happen overnight. This will take time, okay? Think about 1%. There's a 1% rule that says, how can I get 1% better at this? And 1% every day or even 1% every week compounds over time and can lead to really dramatic differences as well. Be sure that you're tracking progress and celebrating wins. Your brain needs proof that your new story is true. So start to track your actions and celebrate those small wins. Keep a wins journal. Every time that you take an action that's aligned with your new belief, win, celebrate, tell people as well. Measure progress, okay? When you start to see things with your retention improve, celebrate that too, okay? These are things, again, stay accountable. Accountability is so powerful when it comes to behavior change, okay? Don't try and do this on your own. Surround yourself with people who will support your growth. Find an accountability partner. You might even want to schedule story check-ins just with yourself, maybe every week or two. How am I going with these key stories as well? Avoid story saboteurs. This, again, your own inner mind that's going to come back and sabotage you, but also, the people around you. Some final thoughts. Your future is created by your actions, and your actions are created by the stories. The order that we must do this is stories first and then actions. Our old stories keep us stuck, and our new stories open the door to new possibilities. So let's bring all of this together. Over this episode, we've identified why your practice isn't working. I went through those 9 different categories, okay? We uncovered the hidden story. What is it that you would say to a judge and a jury? And then we looked at what I'm saying to them. Is that facts or are they beliefs and stories, okay? Then we challenged those stories. We asked, are they really true? Is there evidence of somebody else in my practice, my community? Is there evidence of somebody else that's doing what I say can't be done? Am I using those red flag words like always and never and everyone or no one? Then we rewrote a new story, one that empowers you, okay? We started really small 1% improvements. We created an action plan that aligns with the new story, okay? Here's the most important thing. This is not just a feel-good exercise. This is the foundation of real change, okay? Your future practice, your future success, future freedom, whatever it is that you're looking for, all starts with a story that you tell yourself, and it's backed up by the actions that you take because of it, okay? So here's what we do. Before you move on with your day, when you hit pause, stop, finish at the end of this, I want you to write down one action that you will take today that's going to reinforce your new story, okay? So first step is, what's my story? What's one action? It could be, I'm going to confidently present a care plan today. I'm going to film a short video. I'm going to schedule a conversation with my team about improving efficiency, okay? I'm going to start a small step towards delegating, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a step forward. So it just has to be something, okay? And remember, you are the author of your story. No one else is writing this for you. We've all got different challenges that we've been through, and, God bless you for all of those as well, okay? But not your patience, not your economy, not your past. None of these things get to decide your stories. You get to decide your stories. You get to decide how this goes. The choice is yours, okay? The key from this is define your story and start to take action, make it real. Now, if this episode has resonated with you in some way, then send me an email or get online, DM me. I want to know what your new story is. What are you letting go of? Maybe I can help you with some accountability. Consider sharing this episode with another chiropractor who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to take this to a deeper level, consider joining me inside a community influencer where we help chiropractors implement these things, expand their impact, their income, their enjoyment and practice. And as always, folks, thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives. I look forward to seeing you back here next week. See you soon. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my community influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.